Hi again, this is Tom for Waterwise Botanicals. We're out on a balmy Temecula Valley morning where it's probably going to be 100 and something degrees later on in the day, and we're doing a planting at Jacob's house. Jacob's house is a wonderful ministry home where families can stay and literally live for sometimes a couple of weeks or a month or more at a time when somebody in their family is in intensive care in a nearby hospital. So this is a very, very special place. Waterwise Botanicals had the opportunity to help these folks and help what's going on here by contributing a lot of plants to redo the entire front landscape of the facility. And so today what I just wanted to talk about briefly a little bit more is the varieties of plants that we selected. Temecula Valley again gets very hot in the summertime and drops way sub-freezing in the wintertime. And so we have to have plant varieties that can adapt and withstand both of those temperature extremes. So for us right now, I just want to talk a little bit about the varieties that we selected. You'll see some really bright yellow flower trailing buttercups. That's Calliophis hartwigii. That's a great plant that grows in a mat form, maybe 2 to 3 feet wide, and flowers almost non-stop year-round. Another plant that we're using a lot is one of the few succulents that can endure the cold, and it's called Crassula ripple jade. And that is a variety of plant that grows to be a shrub about 2 feet high by about 3 feet wide. In addition to that, we have a lot of landscape roses. Now, roses are very drought tolerant when they're established. People don't believe that, but tell me how many times you've seen an old abandoned farmhouse where there's been no water for 30 years, and that's still the last living plant scrambling up the side of the farmhouse would be an old rose. So you can see that once they're established and strong, they can really endure a lot. The roses, more than any other plant in this palette, will supply almost year-round flowers and colors. In fact, that's a good way, is using landscape roses in a landscape. It puts it over the top. It looks like you spent the big money. It looks like you got free tickets to the rose parade, and they bloom pretty much year-round. And the landscape varieties, for the most part, have no problem with extra care. They don't need special pruning, nothing. They just keep on blooming throughout the year. And I like you to think of them as just a bush that flowers, not even so much a rose. And a lot of the roses that we used here are rose varieties that have single petals. They don't even look like a rose. They look like a wildflower on a shrub. We also are using an iris, a bearded iris, an old-fashioned one called Grandma's Purple. Now that's a great plant because it has interesting foliage and it works well in shade to deep shade as well as full sun, and then gets those beautiful purple iris flowers in the spring, but then also sporadically through summer and fall, which is very unusual for iris. Trying to think of some of the other varieties here. In the low foregrounds, we're using a little green perennial that's called Teucrium shamadryes, and it'll make little tight green mounds with purple flowers in spring and summer. And the rabbits don't like that plant, which is a big issue a lot of times in semi-rural and even urban settings. We also are using Jasminum angulare, the South African jasmine. Jasminum angulare grows to be a beautiful, low, semi-mounding vining shrub about 2 feet high by up to 3 or 4 feet wide, with aromatic scented white flowers and brilliant white flowers about 6 to 9 months out of the year. Now you hear folks in the background because we invited the public to join us today as we planted this garden so that people could have the opportunity to watch and learn and listen and absorb the plants for Temecula Valley. In fact, if you are in Temecula Valley or Murrieta or any of the Inland Empire valleys, stop by, visit Jacob's house, see the wonderful work that they do here, ask how you can help or contribute, but also come and look at and enjoy and absorb the beautiful gardens that are now the front landscape of Jacob's house in Temecula. I'm Tom Jesch for Waterwise Botanicals.